After 46 years of marriage, one day I woke up alone. Not because he had gone on a trip, not because we had argued, not because life had separated us. I woke up alone because my husband, my life partner, my other half, was no longer there. And in that moment, I didn't just lose a person. I lost the meaning of my routine, the sound of my home, and a part of me that will never be the same again. For 46 years, we shared everything: the breakfast table, household chores, the laughter of our grandchildren, even the silence of afternoons with nothing to say to each other. And suddenly I found myself staring at his empty cup in the kitchen, his shapeless pillow, and his chair by the window. Empty. The silence didn't just fill the house, it crept inside me. Mornings became endless, meals tasteless, days repetitive. I discovered that when someone dies, the little habits that shaped your world die with them. The sound of their key in the door, their cough upon waking, their footsteps crossing the hallway. And the worst part was that no one teaches you how to live with that hole. At first I forced myself to stay busy. I washed dishes I didn't use. I tidied drawers that were already organized. Anything but think. Anything but accept that my life had changed forever. Today I want to tell you my story, not because it's unique, but because maybe it's a little like yours. I want to tell you what I did after losing my husband, what helped me, and also what sank me. I will share mistakes that cost me tears and decisions that gave me back my breath. Because if you are going through something similar, you deserve to know there is light and that you are not alone. Before we start, tell me something. Have you also lost someone important? Where are you listening to me from? I'll read your comments. Nick. During the first weeks after he left, I did what many people do without realizing it. I shut down. I closed the door of my house and also the door of my heart. I didn't answer calls. I didn't open messages. I turned off the TV. I closed the curtains. I got up late, with no reason to get up earlier, and when someone rang the doorbell, I pretended not to be home, as if hiding could make the pain disappear. At first, I thought it was the right thing, that I needed time, silence, space. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you do need to be alone to cry freely. But mine wasn't that. Mine was a desperate attempt not to fall apart in front of others. I thought if I talked to someone, I would break. If they heard me trembling or crying or admitting I was lost, they would see me as weak. And so I clung to that false pride, to that idea that I had to be strong, dignified, reserved. The problem is that loneliness not only surrounds you, it also gets inside you. And when no one talks to you, your head becomes a constant echo of what was. I relived conversations. I heard his voice calling me. I blamed myself for things I never told him. And the silence, the one that seemed to calm, became a ruthless judge. The days started to feel the same. I didn't remember what day of the week it was. I didn't feel like changing my clothes. I ate just enough, slept poorly. And even though I had family and friends nearby, I felt lonelier than ever. Because the truth is this: being alone is not the same as feeling alone. And when you shut yourself off, you don't just distance yourself from the world. You also distance yourself from yourself. It was a neighbor who one afternoon insisted enough to cross the door. She came in with a thermos of coffee and sat with me, saying very little. She just listened. And at that moment, I understood that I didn't need to give explanations, or seem strong, or pretend I was okay. I just needed someone who wouldn't run away from the pain. Over time, I began to open the window a little more, to answer a message, to let someone ask how I was, even if I didn't know what to say. Grief doesn't heal in solitude. It's felt, it's lived, yes, but it's also shared. And every time someone listened to me without judging, without rushing, without giving solutions, they helped me hold on a little longer. If you're going through something similar, I want to tell you this: isolating yourself might seem easiest, But it can also be the most dangerous. Pain needs air, needs movement, needs light. And sometimes it only eases when you share it with someone who doesn't ask you to be okay, but simply stays with you while you're not. Dull. Mistake 2, keeping everything as it was, as if he was still here. For weeks, maybe months, the bedroom stayed just as he left it. His shirt still hung in the same order, some still scented with his perfume. His toothbrush remained in the bathroom. His shoes were next to the bed, as if any moment he would put them on again. In the kitchen, his favorite mug was clean but not put away, waiting for him. And every morning when I got up, I avoided looking at that side of the bed, as if looking meant accepting the inevitable. I didn't touch anything, didn't move anything, didn't change anything. Because deep down, I felt that if I did, I would be erasing him. As if moving his chair would be betraying him. As if taking his shirts out of the closet would mean admitting he wouldn't come back. And so, without realizing it, I turned the house into a silent altar. A museum of a life that no longer existed. I didn't live in that house. I barely survived in it. The hardest part about losing someone isn't the physical emptiness. It's the mental space still occupied by their memory. And when you cling to objects, to the routine you shared, to the little details, you get stuck in a time that's no longer here. I remember one particular afternoon. Several weeks had passed. I was dusting the hallway, and when I opened a closet, I found a box with letters he wrote me years ago. I sat on the floor with the box on my lap and cried as if everything had happened yesterday. But that time, something was different. I cried. And then I got up. I carefully put the letters away, closed the box, and for the first time I took it upstairs. Not to forget them, but to make space. That small gesture changed me. Days later, I changed the bedroom curtains. They had been the same for over 20 years. It was hard. I cried as I took them down. But when the new curtains swayed in the wind, I felt something inside me move too. It wasn't betrayal. It was transition. There is a very fine line between remembering and getting stuck in the past. And by not moving anything, without realizing it, I was stopping myself from healing. I didn't see that I wasn't leaving space for myself. For my pain, yes, but not for my rebuilding. I'm not saying you should throw everything away, nor that you should erase his traces. But I do want to tell you this. His presence isn't in the shirts or the mug. It's in your heart, in your memories, in the way you see the world since he's been gone. Make space, not to forget, but to breathe. Mistake 3, rejecting help because I felt I had to be strong. During those first months, many people offered me help. My daughter, my neighbors, a childhood friend who called me several times. They asked if I needed anything from the supermarket, if they could come visit me, if they could accompany me for a walk. And I always answered the same, I'm fine. Thank you. I lied. But not because I didn't trust them. I lied because I felt that if I accepted help, I would show weakness. And I'd grown up with the idea that a strong woman gets up alone, holds herself up alone, and moves on even if her heart is broken into pieces. I didn't want to worry anyone. I thought if I showed pain, others would feel uncomfortable. And the last thing I wanted was to be pitied. So I pretended I could handle everything. I got up early, tried to keep the house clean, cooked out of habit even when I wasn't hungry. Until one day I realized I hadn't eaten in almost 2 days. I had spent the whole afternoon washing and ironing clothes I wasn't going to wear. And when night came, I felt so exhausted I couldn't even climb the stairs. I sat on the first step and cried. That day I understood that the burden I was carrying wasn't just from my husband's absence. It was because I didn't let anyone help me carry it. I believed I had to be the same woman as before, the one who could handle everything. But I was no longer the same, and that didn't make me less. It made me human. Accepting help is not giving up. It's having the courage to say, I can't do this alone, not today. And when someone offers support from love, Rejecting it is also rejecting a silent hug that could hold you just when you need it most. After that day on the stairs, I let my neighbor bring fresh bread on Sundays. I let my daughter accompany me to the bank, even though I could go alone. I accepted that someone sit with me without having to say anything. And although those things didn't erase the pain, they lightened my soul. Because feeling accompanied, even in silence, is also a way to heal. You are not made of stone. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. And allowing yourself to be vulnerable doesn't weaken you. It connects you with those still willing to walk this hard path with you. Strength doesn't always look like a straight back. Sometimes it looks like a hand reaching out saying, "Thank you, yes. Today I do need help." Check. What I did right. Going for a walk every morning, even if I was crying. I remember very clearly the first time I went for a walk after he left. It was a grey sky morning. It wasn't cold, but the wind felt sharper than usual. I put on my coat, the old shoes I used to wear when walking with him, and went out. I had no destination. I just knew I had to leave the house. It wasn't a brave or planned act. It was more of an impulse. I was tired of seeing the same walls, the same furniture, the same emptiness. I walked slowly, in silence. Every step hurt, not in my feet but in my chest. I passed the corner where we used to stop for coffee. I saw the bench where we used to sit watching people go by. And at one point, unable to avoid it, I stopped and cried. I was alone. No one was watching me. And for the first time, I felt I could cry without hiding. I went back home without feeling better, but different. I had broken, even if only for a few minutes, the invisible prison of grief's routine. And the next day, I did it again. And then the day after, like that, with no big plans, no goals, just walking, slow, sometimes with tears, almost always in silence. Little by little, that habit became my refuge. It wasn't just a walk, it was my space to think, to speak softly to him, to remember without interruptions. And without realizing it, I began to notice the trees, the birds' song, the smell of wet earth. Life outside hadn't stopped. It was still there, green, alive, unstoppable. And that energy, although it hurt me at first, over time began to sustain me. Walking gave me something very valuable: structure. When everything seemed meaningless, knowing I had that small commitment to myself was an anchor. Sometimes we only need one thing a day, just one. But to do it. It doesn't matter if you do it well. It doesn't matter if you cry while doing it. What matters is that, at the end of that small act, you feel like you accomplished something. And in the midst of grief, accomplishing something, even if it's getting dressed and going for a 10-minute walk, is a lot. Movement connects you to the present. And even though the pain is there, breathing with you, the walk teaches the body that you can still keep going. One step, then another. No rush, no promises, just walking. Today, many years later, I still walk through that same park. Sometimes with sadness, sometimes with gratitude, but always with the certainty that that simple decision was one of the first threads with which I began to weave a new life. Mistake 4. Comparing your process with others. A few months after my husband's passing, a friend called me who had also been widowed the previous year. Her name was Teresa. She was a woman my age with whom I used to talk from time to time. When I told her how I felt, I was surprised by her response. "I went through that too, but now I feel much better. I'm even taking singing classes, going out with friends, and planning a trip." After hanging up the phone, I felt worse than I had before talking to her. Not out of envy, not out of jealousy, but out of guilt. I asked myself, what am I doing wrong? Why did it take her a few months and I still can't hear her voice without breaking down? Why can she laugh and make plans while I still wake up every morning with a knot in my stomach? I started to compare myself. I looked at other widows in the neighborhood, at church, even on TV shows, and felt like I was the only one not moving forward. As if there was some invisible calendar dictating how long it's normal to be sad. And that hurt me deeply, because I started to demand more from myself, to force myself to get over it. I went out with a fake smile, wore makeup when I didn't want to, pretended to be better just to seem stronger, more like them. But inside, I still felt broken. And that effort to pretend only left me more tired and emptier. One day, after a meeting with friends, I got home and cried uncontrollably. Not because of what they said, but because I realized I was trying to live a grief that wasn't mine. I was following other people's steps instead of listening to my own rhythm. That's when I understood something fundamental. Every grief is unique. Every love story leaves a different emptiness, and so there's no way to measure time with someone else's ruler. Teresa and her husband had a very different relationship than mine. They lived through other things, suffered other pains, said goodbye in another way. Comparing our experiences was as useless as comparing two songs with different lyrics. Both were valid. Both were real. But they were not the same. From that moment, I stopped asking myself when I would feel better, and simply began to let myself feel. If you are going through a process like this, and feel like you're not moving as fast as others, I want to say this clearly. There is no schedule to heal, no deadlines, no mandatory stages, no clocks marking progress. You are living a deeply human experience, and like all things human, it has curves, setbacks, sunny days, and whole weeks of shadow. And that's okay. Your pain has the right to take up its space and time. Don't compare yourself. Don't punish yourself. The only measure that matters is the one your heart dictates. Diag. What transformed me? Talking with other widowed women. One ordinary day, while waiting my turn at the pharmacy, I saw a sign taped next to the door. It was a simple white paper, handwritten, "Support Group for Widowed Women, every Wednesday at 5 in the afternoon, Neighborhood Cultural Center." I looked at it for a few seconds and was about to ignore it. I thought, I'm not the kind of person who tells her sorrows in front of strangers. But that day, and I don't really know why, I tore it off the glass and put it in my pocket. 3 weeks passed before I dared to go. I showed up with little expectation. I was nervous, didn't know anyone, and didn't know what to say. But as soon as I entered, they welcomed me with looks that understood everything, without needing explanations. There was no need to tell my story from scratch. Everyone there knew the silence of the empty house, the absence in the bed, the echo of a laugh that would never come back. No one asked me to be okay, and that in itself was a relief. The first time I barely spoke. I just listened. Different stories, but with the same thread. Love, loss, pain, and that question that haunts all of us. What now? One woman said she had stopped cooking because she had no one to cook for. Another said she spent weeks sitting in front of the phone, waiting for a call that would never come. And amidst so many tears, there were also laughs. Because yes, we also remembered funny anecdotes, absurd moments that only someone who has shared a whole life can understand. And in that exchange, without realizing it, I began to heal. Not because they gave me solutions, not because they told me what to do, but because for the first time, I felt understood without having to explain anything. I realized I was not alone, and that we all had similar stories, wounds that looked alike, and emptiness that, although different, hurt us in similar ways. Week after week, that group became my refuge, a space where I could be myself, without masks, without owing happiness to anyone, a place where my grief was allowed to exist. Community has a power we rarely value. It teaches us that sharing pain doesn't make it bigger, it makes it more bearable, and that by hearing other broken voices, we find strength in the echo. If you are going through a loss, don't underestimate the power of talking, of sitting with those who have lived the same, of allowing other hands, even if trembling, to hold you as you walk. I arrived broken, And I didn't leave whole, but I left accompanied. And sometimes, that's all we need to keep going.
Tag.
Mistake 5. Believing your life ended with him. There was a moment, I can't say exactly when I asked myself a question I was even afraid to think. What's the point of going on? Don't get me wrong, I didn't want to die, but I felt that life, as I knew it, was over. He was my routine, my companion, my laughter at the table, my comment at the end of every movie. And when he left, I felt like I left a little with him. For weeks, maybe months, I got up without will, went to bed without sleep, and the days slipped through my fingers like sand. I saw other people carry on with their lives, going to the market, making plans, complaining about the weather, laughing in the square. And I thought, how can they go on as if nothing happened? The truth is, nothing excited me. And the hardest part was accepting that what I was feeling had a name: emptiness. But one day, while organizing an old box, I found some watercolors I had bought many years ago. They were from when I thought that in my retirement I would have time to paint. I looked at them for a while, hesitated, and finally sat down in front of a blank sheet. Nothing beautiful came out. It wasn't a painting worthy of showing. But as I moved the brush, something inside me moved too. For the first time in a long time, I was doing something for myself. Weeks later, I enrolled in a painting class for seniors at the neighborhood cultural center. I didn't know anyone and arrived trembling with insecurity. But there, in that room smelling of tempera and crumpled papers, I discovered something I had forgotten. I could still create. I could still learn. I could still discover new things about myself. Later, I started a small garden on the balcony. I planted basil, rosemary, and some flowers he liked, watching them grow, watering them, talking softly to them. It was, in a way, a silent conversation with life. And there I understood something that changed my perspective. Your story doesn't end. It just changes form. He was part of my life, a beautiful, irreplaceable part, full of memories I carry on my skin. But he wasn't my whole life. And if he loved me, as I know he did, then he would also want me to keep living. Not just breathing, but living. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting him. It means honoring him by allowing myself to keep being me, in this new stage that, even though it hurts, can also have light. If today you are asking yourself, what's the point of going on? I want to say this with all my heart. Go on for you, for what you can still discover, for what you can still give. Because even if a part of you left with him, another part is still here, waiting for you to listen.
Tag.
What would I do differently if I could go back? Sometimes I sit in the kitchen with a cup of tea in my hands, and I'm surprised thinking about all I would do differently if I could go back. Not to change fate, because there are things that, no matter how much we want, aren't in our hands, but to live differently the moments I did have. If I could turn back time, I would open up sooner. I wouldn't wait for the pain to overflow me to let myself be helped. I would have said more times, I can't do this alone. And I would have listened more when someone told me, I'm here for you. I wouldn't have hidden my tears or disguised my sadness to seem strong, because now I understand that showing fragility is also a way to be brave. If I could go back, I would talk more with him. Not about the important things, we said those. I would talk more about the simple things. I would ask him again how he liked his coffee, even if I already knew. I would ask him to tell me again the story of how he got his first job. I would ask him about his childhood, his fears, what he never dared to say out loud. Because when someone leaves, you don't just miss their presence. You also miss the unfinished conversations, the laughs that weren't repeated, the words that weren't said in time. And if I learned something on this path, it's that it's not worth holding back what we feel. Don't keep words inside. Don't punish yourself with silence. Say it. Do it. Open your arms while there's someone to hug. I would also forgive myself sooner. Forgive myself for not always being patient, for arguing over silly things, for the days when tiredness or routine got the best of me. Because with time, I learned that love is not measured by mistakes, but by presence. And I was there. I was there in body, soul, and love. To you, listening to this in the middle of your grief, I want to say something from the depths of my experience. You will make mistakes. It's part of the process. But don't judge yourself harshly. Don't demand to heal fast, nor to be strong every day. Allow yourself to cry, to err, to ask for help. And above all, allow yourself to keep going without feeling that you betray the one who is no longer here. True love doesn't leave with death. It keeps living in you, and the best way to honor it is to continue your path with love, compassion, and the firm decision not to let the absence extinguish you. If I could go back, I would speak to myself with tenderness. And today, I give that tenderness to you. Take. After all this time, if I had to sum up what I learned, it would be this. There is no right way to go through grief, but there are mistakes that, without realizing, can hurt us more. I made many mistakes. I isolated myself believing that pain healed in silence. I kept every one of my husband's things as if moving an object was a betrayal. I rejected help out of pride, fear of worrying others. I compared myself to other widows as if there was a rule to measure who heals faster. And maybe the hardest thing of all, I believed my life had ended with his. But I also did things that helped me breathe again. Walk every morning, even with tears. Talk with other women who understood my silence. Allow tenderness, art, plants, and even the color of a new curtain to be small steps toward a new way of living. Today, from a different place, I tell you this: you are not alone. Even if the world seems too big or too empty, there are many people who have been where you are and have come out. Not unscathed, but with more awareness, more compassion, more strength than they imagined they had. Pain doesn't disappear completely, but it stops being an open wound to become a scar that reminds you how much you loved. And that, even though it hurts, is also a privilege. If you are living through grief, if every day you get up with a heavy heart but still decide to go on, I want to invite you to do something very important. Tell me in the comments what is helping you keep going. What is holding you up today? What gesture, what memory, what habit pushes you to get up one more time? Because your words can be the light for someone who sees no way out today. And sometimes, reading a story like yours is all another person needs to keep walking. And if this message did you good, if something here resonated with you or someone you love, I ask you from my heart, share this video. Someone, somewhere needs it. And if you want to receive more real stories, more comfort, more wisdom born from pain, subscribe. Here we speak with the soul. And here, every story matters. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And above all, thank you for continuing, one step at a time.